Hi team, my name is Mr. Powell. Welcome to the next installment of our Introduction to European History Anchor Fact series of printables and mini lessons. Our theme today is the Dark Ages. Why do people use that expression? Well, it begins with the fall of a once great civilization, the Roman Empire. The Dark Ages began around 476 AD, when the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustus, was kicked off the throne by a Germanic barbarian. Rome, which once stretched from Britain and France in the northwest to Egypt and Mesopotamia in the southeast, had already collapsed by that point. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say, and it didn't fall in a day either. It took about 100 years, so the Dark Ages really started long before Rome was gone. But the worst of it came as the Roman Empire collapsed. A barbarian tribe called the Visigoths sacked the city of Rome, followed by another barbarian tribe called the Vandals. Yes, that's where we get the word vandalism from. The tribe called the Vandals, who destroyed so much of Rome. The most important tribe of the Dark Ages, however, was the Franks. After helping the Romans to defeat invaders from Asia known as the Huns, the Franks then began to destroy Rome just like the other tribes. And these tribes were constantly fighting each other too. In one particularly important battle, known as the Battle of Tolbiac, Clovis, the king of the Franks, was losing and raised his arm up to the Christian god of his wife. He promised that if he would win the battle, he would become a Christian. He won! Clovis and all his people became Christians. But even as the Franks struggled to build a new life, another enemy appeared, the Muslims coming out of northern Africa. The Muslims were waging holy war, or jihad as they call it, to spread their belief. They had conquered most of Spain and were entering France. Charles Martel, the next of a long line of famous Frankish kings, stopped them at the Battle of Tours. As you can see, the main theme of the Dark Ages is the invasion of Europe by outside forces such as the Huns and the Muslims, and the many wars between these outsiders and the people of Europe themselves. It was indeed a dark time. Most people could not read or write either. The laws and learning of the Romans largely disappeared and was replaced by the rule of warlords, such as Clovis and Charles Martel. War was a constant. For the entire Dark Ages, the people of Spain fought against their Muslim invaders. For the entire Dark Ages, Italy passed from one barbarian tribe to another. For the entire Dark Ages, English history became such a jumble that the main story we have about it is the legend of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. The other feature of this time is constant migrations. In other words, nobody had an obvious home or homeland. Each group that claimed a part of what had been Rome was threatened and attacked by others. The shape of the kingdoms was constantly changing. There was no safety or stability. It was indeed a dark time. So when did Europe begin to pull out of it? There's no easy answer. When Europeans look back on their history, they sometimes talk about the Middle Ages, which lasted for about 1,000 years after the fall of Rome. What they mean is that there was a Renaissance, a rebirth of Greco-Roman culture after the Dark Ages or Middle Ages. That is certainly true when it comes to the story of art, when beauty died, and then after 1,000 years was reborn. But that's just one part of life. The main part of the story that people tell in history is the story of government. So was there any progress there? Any stability? In our next lesson, we'll see that there was a brief spark of hope created by another famous Frankish king named Charlemagne. It didn't last, however, so the Dark Ages did indeed continue. More in the next lesson. And remember, you can watch these videos one at a time, week by week, as they are released on YouTube. But you can also go to the Knowable World website for the full printables package and complete video series, including the timeline and activity pack for the series, available on demand. It's all there at knowableworld.com. See you again soon.